Uganda, and 65 years of them as an active participant. I gave them the history of the NRM contribution to the Wakiri Twebaka Kutulo. As we were fighting, our concept of justice was mainly based on the indigenous concept of justice. The indigenous communities of this area insist on full accountability or restorative justice. Unlike the colonial and neo-colonial justice of actors in wigs, sometimes trying to obscure facts, the indigenous communities insist on substantive justice. With the indigenous justice system, in the end, there are no two sides, defense and prosecution. In the end, what matters is what was the truth. What was the truth? This is what we, the indigenous people, insist on. The tragic-comic practice of the defense dedicating itself to obscuring the facts is foreign to our indigenous system. It is this frame of mind that guided us in the Royal Triangle. I've told the different fora of the incident of a boy called Zaburoni and his colleague in the area of Semuto, the village of Mulule, in 1982. Zaburoni and his colleague drank alcohol and killed 3 villagers on account of their alcohol. Janet Mkwaya was a government magistrate in the area when we captured the area. She tried the case and passed a sentence that I don't remember well. Then the matter came to the High Command, of which I was chairman. In the High Command, we had somebody that had studied as a neo-colonial lawyer at Makerere. This was Jim Mwezi, who was our secretary. He advised that, according to the colonial law, Zaburoni did not kill the 3 villagers in Mulule, that it was the beer inside Zaburoni that had killed the people, and therefore Zaburoni could not be guilty. The indigenous communities had 2 systems of offenses. The first category were ebshumuro. These were offenses short of murder. These included insult, okujuma, very serious. Mistreatment of spouse, such as kugunga, what they call kugunga, which means denial of sex. That's a big offense. Okwitsenjara, not feeding the partner well. Okushenda, denying shelter to somebody who had okwirirwa, caught by the night while on a journey. Kuonesa, livestock eating somebody's crops. Kuterenta wato, denying water to cattle that are not yours, etc., etc. The remedy for all these, after you have been through the court of the chief or a shazi, which is an assembly of elders sitting outside the kraal, or a tribunal, such as in a matter of Garumukazo Oyangaine, trying to bring back one's wife after she has gone back to her parents in protest against mistreatment. The answer for all this is okonga, to pay a fine. This can be a cow, a goat, etc. The action is called okonjesa. The other category of offense is murder, which will create enzugu. vendetta. With Nzugu, there were two solutions. These were either to revenge or Khora, hence the name Mhozi. Mhozi means an avenger. Or Kukaraba, blood settlement. If the offending clan did not want to suffer revenge, they would reach out to the victim's clan and offer to Kukaraba, which is to pay big compensation in cattle for the murdered person, and the Abafumu, the priests, to wipe out the enmity with some rituals that cleanse away the blood. Therefore, the colonial concept that somebody can commit an offense and then deny it is very provocative to we, the indigenous people. It represents impunity. Aware of this orientation of our people, we could not bear listening to the line of people like Muhwezi. In the case of the Semto murders, where it was the beer inside Zaburoni that was guilty, but not Zaburoni. Since Zaburoni had made himself a jerrycan of alcohol, and that jerrycan had killed 3 Ugandans, Zaburoni and his colleague had to be shot in public and at a point where they had killed people. It is that initial act of balanced justice that catapulted the prestige of the NRM in Buganda and Uganda. The Baganda said, Bano Balina Mazima. These are people of truth and justice. Hence, the work in Kakuturo you are talking about now. The work in Kakuturo came because of strict accountability, which we had started when we were in the bush. Even when we came into government, the same was maintained. Indeed, some soldiers have been executed in public for killing people. Examples are Sergeant Kibonge, Sergeant Omona, Private Codet, etc., etc. If Uganda had been peaceful in 1982, in the case of Zaburon and group, we could have explored the option of Kukaraba. That was the only way we could save Zaburoni, to have blood settlement. But we didn't have that opportunity. Therefore, on the side of the NRA, we came with the spirit of the indigenous justice. However, in the wider system, the legal practitioners and some of the elite adhered to the colonial system that is quite ridiculous in some cases. Take the example that sometimes the accused can refuse to answer. In the tribe, you say, I don't want to answer, you are guilty. This is the way we think. Then there is the issue of granting bail, even when the accused can interfere with the case. Apart from the disconnected colonial system, you also get actual abusers of that system because they are dishonest. Even with the colonial law, bail is apparently only given when the accused cannot interfere with the case. However, you have seen rampant cases of policemen giving bonds or magistrates giving bail to village thieves that are threatening rural agriculture. So that was one problem. Then there was the death of many of our original NRA commanders, by many dying from the natural causes. The regiments that brought victory on the 26th of January 1986 were the following: 1st Battalion, 3rd Battalion, 5th Battalion, 7th Battalion, 9th Battalion, 11th Battalion, 13th Battalion, 15th Battalion, 17th Battalion, 19th Battalion, 21st Battalion. These were 11 regiments, although they were being called battalions. 19th Battalion, for instance, had 1,900 soldiers, yet our battalion at that time would have been about 750 personnel. However, 7 of these regiments had their commanders dead in the early years after 1986. Instead of having the original NRA Basasodoti commanders, because the commanders of the NRA were Basasodoti of the movement, believe in the ideology of the NRM. Instead of having the original Basasodoti commanders, we started having either careerist commanders, Nkola Mulimu, Ndikumusala, or even actual opportunists, Najakulia. This is how you started having corruption in the army, stealing army ration, stealing army fuel, stealing army funds. In the wider society, however, the prestige of the NRM on account of Wakili Tweva Kakuturo, as well as repairing the ruined economy, goods in the shops being plentiful, some of the infrastructure being repaired, the prestige of the NRA grew. So our cadreship was becoming weaker, but still the reputation of the prestige of the NRM grew because of the successes. Yeah. But the Basasodoti were not enough. The NRM, therefore, attracted big membership, standing at 18 million by May 2025 last year when we checked the registers. However, gaps in observing human rights, in fighting corruption and fighting crime, mainly on the part of the political class, the bureaucracy, and the judiciary remained. So you had success, economy was growing, goods were plentiful in the shops. Wakili Tweva Kakuturo yaliwo was there, but there were gaps. There were gaps because of the diluted cadreship. This meant that there was peace and the economy was growing, but it would have grown even more if we did not have those gaps. I noticed that danger, and for the NRA UPDF, I encouraged young Muhozi, after he had finished S6, to mobilize some of his colleagues and come to Kasenyi training wing for ideological and military training. You remember the story at that time by the negative forces that I was recruiting an illegal army. You must have, if you check the news, you will see those stories. Those cadres, however, unlike their Bush predecessors, had more time and opportunity for professional development by attending all military and ideological courses systematically, level by level. The recent limited actions by security forces against some individuals and institutions are really long overdue actions to fill those gaps. wakiri twebaka